On today's podcast episode, we dip into the mind of Brad Chandler, who's been in the real estate investing space for over 21 years, almost as long as I've been alive, and has spent over $30 million on marketing in his businesses, in real estate specifically. So today we're going to kind of dip into his mind. This is going to be a little bit of a different type of podcast. We're not going to be telling you, the best strategy and technique on how to do your direct mail or text blasting or branding and social media ads, any of that stuff. Today, Brad's coming on the show to specifically talk about some of the key takeaways that he has learned in his 21 years of real estate investing experience in the world of marketing. I tried to circle this back around a couple of times, but some of the things that I took away that are going to make the most sense and be, of contextual value for anybody that's listening is something that most people don't think about because they're not at this level yet, is you can actually spend yourself or even market yourself out of business, which what that means is basically there's been a few people that I personally know where they have spent so much time and investment into marketing and they did such a great job of generating leads that they didn't have the sales staff to be able to support that. Now, theoretically, yes, I should hire that out and, I can hire more people to take those calls and that sort of thing, but they didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't know that they spent so much in marketing dollars and ramped it up where their leads were coming through the door. And I know it's a luxury that a lot of people wish they had, but they literally almost ran themselves out of business because they just went balls to the walls and just tried every single thing in marketing. And leads did come in, and come to find out, a couple of the friends that I'm talking about, they'll even tell you, most of the leads were not worth our time. It was a crazy amount of leads, but we literally market ourselves to death, and we didn't have the sales staff to support it, the infrastructure to support the sales funnels, none of that. And so we almost spent ourselves and marketed ourselves out of business. So understanding the way that you're framing your marketing for your business, that coincides with the way that you're framing your life. So all that to say, Brad today talks about that specifically, how to take your life and make sure that the marketing, first of all, the business that you're building is supporting you, the lifestyle that you want, but also the marketing is supporting the business that you want, right? So there's tiers to this. And he talks about that, breaks it down for us and what that looks like. And I think it's very interesting the way that he kind of dissects and goes into it, because I do think that it will help a lot of people. Again, you may be on a journey where you're just getting started, and this is something where you're like, man, I feel like this is like levels above me, but you hearing it now before getting into it is going to be very healthy for you in the long run, trust me. So I think this is going to be a very valuable episode for some people. Again, don't expect any crazy marketing tactics and that sort of thing. We are going to be talking about marketing specifically, but to build your marketing efforts around the business that you designed for the specific lifestyle you have designed. So without further ado, this is my good friend, Brad Chandler. I'm super excited to bring him on the show. You guys are going to learn a lot, so make sure to take notes and enjoy. Welcome back to the REI Marketing Weekly. It's your host, Josh Culler. And guys, do you want to learn from somebody today that has spent over $30 million in marketing since 2003? Because if you do, if you have any interest in that, I've got a absolutely outstanding guest on the show for you today, Mr. Brad Chandler. Brad, how you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm super excited to have you. I brought up a joke that it's been forever since we've talked, but I talked to you yesterday. But there's a lot of things that we could crack open when it comes to marketing. And yesterday when we were talking, I just got this crazy sense of just comfortability, being able to kind of just chat with you about stuff that I've never been able to talk about with anybody else, really. So first of all, you need to know that was a very, and I texted you this afterwards, but that was a very, in a way, life-changing call that I had, even though it was 15 or 20 minutes long. It wasn't even that long. So I'm looking forward to, connecting with you more. But today we're going to be talking about the $30 million you spent, the lessons that's taught you over the years. And you specifically were, before we were hitting record here, you had mentioned how, mindset wise, that can shift from time to time. And it's not necessarily about going to masterminds and having all these 20 different things that you could do, coming back and then implementing them and then overwhelming yourself, ultimately spending yourself out of business and that sort of thing, which is a very real thing. So I want you to kind of kick off and talk about, first of all, in the amount of time that you've been in the real estate business, obviously the listenership, everybody's going to be investing in real estate or at least interested in investing in real estate and learning marketing. I do want to talk about not just like overwhelming yourself when it comes to marketing tactics and trying everything. And you specifically use the word focus. So talk to me about the principles of focus when it comes to marketing. What comes to mind when you're thinking about that?
Well, look, we talked a little bit offline before we started, and all these thoughts are flooding into my head. Like $30 million, you can, wear that as a badge of courage. Or, as I'm thinking about this and how I'm going to answer your questions, a lot of this talk is going to go around self-limiting beliefs and how some self-limiting beliefs that are hidden inside your subconscious mind are not only affecting your business, but your health, your relationships. And I'm just sitting here thinking, Josh, how much of that $30 million did I absolutely just piss away? And why did I piss it away? Because my limiting belief was that I wasn't enough, and that if I could make millions of dollars, that's why I got into real estate, I'd be worthy and I'd have happiness. And the irony is that if you can get to the state today, and I now get people in that state in 3 to 5 hours of what you think $10 million in the bank is going to give you, you can actually be happier today. And the chances of you making that $10 million just go through the roof, because now you're not doing it to try to prove something to the world. You're doing it to make an impact. So I know I'm thinking about all these marketing vendors from very early on where my wounded brain said, they're the answer to my problems. And my problem is, I didn't say this consciously, but my biggest problem was I don't feel enough. So I've got to go make $1 gazillion so that I can feel loved and enough. So I spent a bunch of money that was probably wasted. Do I do that anymore? No, because I now have shifted from making money to prove my worth to making an impact. So back to your question on focus, I think it's way deeper than that. I think you have to focus on, first of all, why are you in the business? What are your goals? And then ask yourself, and then at the top of the paper, and then say, well, ask yourself why, and then write the answer to that question, and then ask why, and go 7 levels deep. For instance, there was a time where I spent a lot of marketing and $1 million, I think I lost, on trying to create a real estate team that sold $1 billion in 1 year. Well, had I done the exercise back in 2008, I don't even know if I would have known this back then, but the bottom, the 7th question was why? So I could feel enough. So I think the deeper answer is, first figure out what your why is. Why do you even need a marketing campaign? Why do you want to make $1 million? Why do you have to be in 17 states or 17 cities? If you can figure that out, it might shortcut it. And then in terms of focus, Cameron Herold said he took 1-800 got junk from, he did some consulting work for us back in the day, from $1 million to 100 million. He's like, business isn't hard. You just focus on the wrong things. You make it hard by focusing on the wrong things. So in marketing, it's marketing and sales are so similar. You've got to talk to the person like they're talking in their head. Get the right copy. And then, AI is changing everything these days, but a majority of that $30 million was spent on TV. Do we get the same returns we got probably 15 years ago? No. Are there a lot more people in the space? Yeah. So you got to adapt. You got to always be changing. So that was a long-winded answer to a question on focus, but I think it's just deeper than that. And I think if I can inspire some people to start to think deeper, like I hope I did with you yesterday, then I can change lives, rather than just giving you surface level answers.
Yeah, no, of course. And that was all super helpful. I think that there's a lot of there's so much truth to all of that. And the way that it affects, it's not just the marketing side, the way that it affects your business and how you run your business on a day-to-day basis, right? It has so much control over your life sometimes. I told you yesterday, I feel like, I am my abilities and my worth are very much tied to my business. I feel like if my business sucks, then I suck, right? It is that whole thing. So then I in turn start to ramp up the marketing to get more clients, to start working with more people, right? It's that sort of thing. But if you boil it down to, obviously guys like Brad is talking about, not just boiling it down to what's the purpose of the business, how much money do we need to make this month to be profitable or make, 30% profit or whatever your number is. That's obviously a part of it, but it's going even deeper than that in surface level. That's extremely important. That's, one of the biggest takeaways I took away from our call yesterday. But if you're talking to somebody that is like I of course want to circle, I told you this, like I want to make sure that I circle this back into marketing at some point, which is obviously a big piece of this. But when it comes to marketing the business, having said everything that you've already said, is it literally as simple as mapping out everything to that 7 levels that you mentioned in order to be able to determine what type of marketing I need to do? Like, is it that simple, or what type of advice would you give on something like that?
Well, I don't think it's that simple. Let me come back to this because I just want to touch on something you said about your net worth is tied, your self-worth was tied to your net worth, or is. And for many, many years of my life, it was the same way. If I was making a lot of money, I'm in the gym and I'm dancing around. I don't think, right?
Yeah.
When I wasn't making money, I was like not dancing. Like everything was tied to how I was doing in the business because I thought that's what love and, worthiness was, the more money you make. So that's not the case anymore. If my business is struggling, it's not going to change who I am. Your question is as simple as doing the 7 levels deep? Look, you just can't do that and then finish, right? You then have to come up with a plan. But if you can figure out what is your why, and if you can figure out before you even spend $1, oh my God, I'm doing this just to make $1 gazillion and I freaking hate this business. I don't hate the real estate business, but I'm not passionate about it. What I'm passionate about is helping people remove self-limiting beliefs. So I could read books for hours and hours and hours on trauma and psychology. So you may figure out doing this exercise that why am I even in real estate? Maybe I should be a missionary or starting a school or something. So I think just getting clear on your why then makes everything else easier. So when you plan, you're now not going to hire people that you see at masterminds because your buddy said they were going to make you $1 million. Do they fit? Do they culturally fit? Are they going to help you? Do you agree with their ethics and their values? Like those are the things that most people don't think about when it comes to marketing. It's just like, how much money can I make and how fast can I do it?
Yeah, of course. Interrupting this podcast episode to tell you guys that this podcast is managed and produced by Color Media Productions. Yes, shameless plug, that's my company. However, we do this for a lot of other people as well. Most people that we work with are in the real estate investing space. So if you're listening to this podcast specifically, you probably are a real estate investor, given it's called the REI Marketing Weekly. If you're somebody that either wants to start a podcast or you have one going and it's becoming a little bit of a hassle, you're looking to transition to somebody that works a little bit better with a fluid motion in terms of you get the recordings done and then they do everything else. Well, that's what we do. We do fully managed podcasts from start to finish, video, audio, show noting, the graphics, publishing, everything that goes into it. It's a full service business that we run here in a service for you as a real estate investor if you are running a podcast. Additionally, we also do social media and YouTube management as well. So all of that being on the organic side, if you are interested in learning more about working with us and just recording content with guidance and strategy set by myself personally, and then not doing anything else after that, where we're taking care of everything from start to finish, then make sure you go check us out at colormedia.com, CULLER media.com. Hit us up there and we can learn more about working together, hop on a phone call and see what we could do for you. Now back to the episode. So I want to kind of deviate a little bit. And I think that, like, obviously with the amount of experience time-wise, but also the amount of money that you've spent in this space and the businesses that you've ran, there's a lot to kind of like pick your brain on. And I think some of the biggest things that I like to dig into are like mistakes and failures. And obviously I think that you're somebody that's not afraid to talk about those things because you look at it from a different scope than most people do, where you're looking at it as like, what lessons have I learned and what takeaways do I have from this? So from your words, what are some of the biggest things that you've taken away, maybe mistakes that you've corrected, or maybe even just things that you took away that maybe they weren't negative. They were just like, yeah, I learned that lesson during this process of spending the amount of money that you've spent in marketing from a real estate perspective. What are some of those biggest things that you would kind of take away and provide?
The biggest thing that comes to mind, Josh, is when you have these limiting beliefs, you oftentimes are not authentic, which means you don't follow your gut. And when it comes to marketing and it came to hiring, I would often make decisions that didn't feel completely right, but I was overpowered with, oh my God, they might make me a bunch of money. So if you have a call with a vendor that's a marketing agency and you have a you just have something, your spidey senses, your gut. Like, we have this amazing intuition as a human being to have feelings that we can't often explain. So I would say follow that. Like, it's the same thing in relationships. If you feel something's off, follow that. Don't continue walking down the same path. It's just like you're walking if you're a female listening to this and you're walking to your car and you have a funny feeling, honor that funny feeling. So, man, there were some marketing campaigns over the years. Like this one guy, we spent a lot of money because he convinced me that having a comedian talk about home buying was good. And so we did all of these spots. We hired a comedian, did all these spots. And, looking back, like, it's a real, like, most of the folks selling their house are in some type of distress, financial distress, emotional distress. But it really wasn't about being funny. But again, my 6-year-old self was like, who cares if it, what really matters is this guy says it can make a ton of money. So I'm going to listen to him despite my gut saying it wasn't right.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like that a lot because, I love that too. And you and I both, so we'll get a little spiritual on you guys here. So like, you and I both are, Christians. And I think that, to me, the gut is just the Holy Spirit speaking, in my opinion. Like, it's just like, obviously like experience and all that comes with it too. But especially if it's being told to you multiple times on the inside, like when it's being said no multiple times and you have all these reasons, like, it's not just that you want it to stop you, but at the same time, like, your gut is valuable in many ways because, it's connected to your brain, like all that stuff, like biology, if we're going to get into that. But it's a valuable asset that I think a lot of people don't lean into. And when it comes to running a business, spending on marketing, running certain things, or even just, like you said, you use the example of working with an agency on something like that, really truly trust your gut and decide. And you should already have this decision, like, is this direction I want to take my company? Is this going to achieve and accomplish things that I want my company to achieve and accomplish? Because marketing drives that. Marketing is what drives your business to bring revenue through the door, and in accordance with sales as well. So it's important to have that outlined. You agree with that?
100%. 100%. Yeah. And I believe that the divine is inside of us. So I never heard that or thought about that, but that is interesting that your gut is like your essence or the divine telling you, hey, this is the right move to make.
Yeah, that's what I believe. And I could talk about that, like a lot of the experiences I've had and everything, but that's truly what I actually believe in. But when it comes down to it too, I think that experience is a really big piece of that, obviously, which a lot of people just don't, for whatever reason, lean into that and what they should. I mean, you being in the real estate investing space since 2003, over 20 years is like, that's a valuable asset as well. And for you to not go, and whether that's you've been in real estate for 3 years or for 6 years, there's been things that you've gone through, or even, leaning on other people's experiences too. That's where masterminds and relationships really come in handy as well and are valuable. Lean into that kind of thing. So in the world of marketing, are there any other things that you can kind of bring up in terms of like, lessons and key take? Like what you brought up there was excellent. I think everybody needs to hear that. But any other lessons or key takeaways you could share?
So there's just no silver bullet, right? I think so many people are always looking for the silver bullet. And there isn't one. It's blocking and tackling. It's okay, you got a great marketing campaign, and man, have I seen some great marketing campaigns. And then I go into these offices, I look at people's CRMs, and I pull up leads from 6 months ago, and it says hot lead, and I look at how many times it's been followed up, and it's like one time.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you're spending all of this money. This is a real life example. I won't mention names or anything, but this guy was spending a fortune, and I went in. I was like, "That's your problem. Isn't marketing? It's follow up. It's and then it's like, do you have the correct salespeople going into the houses? Are they building rapport? Are they setting up, the sale in the right way? Are they pushing back? Are they, most salespeople think you want to push. No, you want to, like, anytime you hear some signs of negativity, then it's almost like you want to step back and be like, well, it sounds like we're not a fit. So marketing is great, but you can do marketing well and it not convert, and then you think the campaign is bad, but it's really your follow-up, or it's your sales, or it's the follow-up after that, or you have shitty customer service and then you're getting bad reviews. And So yeah, it's not just
Interesting.
that's the silver. There's just no business is tough, and there's just no silver bullet. You got to look at all areas of your business and make sure you're dialed in. And I wasn't dialed in for so many years because I was going in 16 directions trying to make $1 million because I didn't feel worthy.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, that is excellent information. I think that's a really bad tendency that a lot of, for whatever reason, our industry, real estate investors really try to look for that silver bullet constantly. Like, what's the one thing that I could do in marketing that's going to generate what I want it to do? And sometimes it's not the answer. There might be a couple of things, but that's why you really have to focus in on what it is that you're, set out to do. Especially something you kind of like skimmed over that I want to go into. So I think, in the world of marketing, sales overlaps with marketing frequently. There's a lot of like kind of blending points between the two. And there's been several guests I've had on the show here where we talk really mostly about sales in some capacity. In some of the things that you teach and some of the things that we've gone over when it comes to like treating people right and going in the right direction and having, that kind of essence to yourself. Is there any kind of sales, I guess, like in a world where we're watching people that are super hyper aggressive in sales, where they're just like forcing the sale on somebody and just like nonstop, just in their face and that sort of thing. It's a whole car salesman kind of experience that people have to go through, right? Is there something that you could kind of like give a good pointer, a tip on when it comes to communicating with sellers that really circle around some of the things that you teach?
I mean, well, yeah, there's several things. I'm so big on rapport. When I was doing like acting as a sales manager, I don't know how many years ago, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. When I listened to the calls in the houses, I was so big on rapport because I had been in those same houses and I had a crazy like high closing percentage. I think I was like north of 50%. And people have often said to me, you just seem so trustworthy. And I don't try to be trustworthy. I just try to be myself and be authentic. And now more than ever, I understand the pain that these people are going through. Yeah, there's so much suffering in this world. And unfortunately, most of it's self-inflicted by the thoughts in our head. If you have a problem right now, I can promise you, I'll bet my kid's life on it. It's a thinking problem. Everything comes down to thinking. And so I would just have empathy for these people. And instead of walking in the house and seeing them as a dollar sign, see them as a human being. I think Ram Dass says, we all are just souls searching for love. Like these people are in a bad situation. They wouldn't be selling to a real estate. Most of them wouldn't be selling to a real estate investor if they had their shit together and everything was great. So I think rapport is absolutely huge. I think figuring out what is important to them. Just like I was saying, find out what's important to you, get their why. What are the 10 things that's really important, the 5 things that are really important to them, and then show them how you can solve those 5 or 10 things. And the offer price is kind of like, it's just like, oh, and we can do all that for this. Put the emphasis on solving their pain because that's what they're most, that's what they want more than anything is their pain to be solved.
Yeah, no, that was great. That's exactly what I was looking for, something like that. I think that needs to be applicable to everybody. If you're talking to motivated seller leads, take that information and implement that into your communication with the sellers that you have. That's going to be huge. Brad, I think we're kind of towards the end here. Is there any other input you want to give and any other final messaging that you would like to kind of share with us before we wrap up the show today?
Well, we touched on our gut. I want to say something I learned from a doctor. I did some studying under Dr. Gabor Mate. He says that as children that we have 2 primary needs, authenticity and attachment. Authenticity is the ability to feel our gut, believe in our gut, and say our true emotions. Attachment is if you're not attached to your parents, you're going to die. You're a child. What often happens is you tell your mom she won't give you a cookie. You tell her you hate her. And she yells at you or cries for 2 hours. Dad comes home, hits you, and says, don't ever make mommy feel that way. So remember, authenticity and attachment. So we look at that, and our survival brain says, okay, I just pissed off mom and dad. That could mean I could get kicked out of the tribe. This is all running in your 6 million-year-old subconscious brain. So I cannot risk dying, so I'm going to change the person that I am. I'm going to put on a mask because I will do anything not to upset mommy and daddy. And then here you are as a 47-year-old like I was wearing a mask saying, I don't give a shit what people think. I love myself. I have high self-esteem. It was all just a lie because I couldn't be authentic because I couldn't be authentic as a kid. And think about this. If you see a lion 10,000 years ago and your gut says, "Hey, that's danger," and you don't leave, what's going to happen? You're going to get eaten. So it's just really important to recognize so many of us are operating with businesses that are in chaos, families that are in chaos, near divorce, addicted to food, porn, weed, alcohol. And none of this shit is your fault. It's all from the childhood programming. And there's a real proven method. I've gone through it now. I've taken 100 clients through it there, that in literally 3 to 5 hours, you can uncover those untruths, reprogram your brain, and then the negative behavior goes away. I mean, everything in my life has changed drastically in these last 3 years into the good side. And if you're struggling, if you're suffering, remember, it's in your thinking. It's not your fault. And there is a better way. So if I can help you, reach out. But if it's not me, someone else, if you like this type of talk and you want more of it, I have a podcast called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Reach out and if I can help you, I'll help you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was going to mention the podcast as well. So guys, if you are interested in listening to that, make sure you do connect with Brad first of all. And then we're going to have down in the description below in the show notes a link to Brad's podcast. So make sure you do go check that out on all podcast platforms. But Brad, it's been a good 20 minutes. I appreciate all your insight and everything. A little bit of a different episode than we typically talk about how to do direct mail, or I think the last show was TV advertisement and stuff like that. I think this is something that everybody needs though when it comes to focusing on you, but like obviously the marketing impacting and how that connects with you as a human being and the business and where all that kind of intertwines with each other. So appreciate you sharing everything, and I look forward to having you back again soon.
Thanks, brother.
All right, awesome, guys. That's going to do it for today's episode. If you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the show. Once again, do make sure to go check out all the links down in the description below. Connect with Brad, listen to his podcast to get to know him a little bit better. And he does have some programs that you could kind of go through as well. And we'll have that link down in the description below. If you haven't already, please leave a review. That would be amazing, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.